All right, welcome back to another episode of the More Than Outdoors podcast, the podcast where we talk about the people, places, and passions that drive Maine's outdoor recreation economy. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Austin French,
And I'm Sam Andrews.
and we have first of all, beautiful day to film an outdoor podcast. So, Jeff, great job coordinating the weather for us. But we got an awesome guest that is doing some amazing things here in Central Maine when it comes to outdoor recreation, trail networks, building programming to get people outside. There's a lot of really cool stuff that I know I'm super excited, and I'm sure you are too, in terms of getting through this conversation. So, Sam, I got to ask you, where are we today?
We are at Quarry Roads in Waterville, Maine, and right in your backyard
Right
this
in
time.
my backyard.
Normally we're like in Farmington and always recording in my backyard, and your backyard, Jeff. So thank you for being on the podcast and chatting with us and telling us about the place you spend like every day of your week.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So Jeff, for our listeners who maybe don't quite know who you are yet, maybe what's the brief intro that you try to tell folks of like who you are, what you do, and where you do it?
Sure. So my name is Jeff Tucker, and I'm the director at Quarry Road Trails in Waterville, Maine. I work for Waterville Parks and Rec. And Quarry Road Trails is a super dynamic community space. It is a 4-season recreation destination for people of all ages and ability levels in central Maine. It's located just 2 miles from downtown. And it really is Waterville's backyard for outdoor recreation and adventure. And we have so many really great uses of this trail network, but I think the place where we really shine and where we're sitting right now is kind of the middle of ski season. We're primarily known as a cross-country skiing destination, but we also do have a rope tow for downhill skiing and snowboarding. We have really great snowshoe trails that are also an expanding network of mountain bike trails in the summertime, hiking, disc golf, running, paddle sports. So we got a lot going
That's
on,
awesome.
and my role looks different every day, just trying to make it happen and get people outside and enjoy this great community space.
That's really
I love
cool.
running into you every time I come here. Jeff is doing like wearing a different hat. Like you're either like on a groomer, you're talking with somebody who's like setting up for a ski race. I haven't actually seen you on skis yet though, to be honest. Like, do you get out there and ski yourself?
Not as much as I want to, which is funny because I do find myself this time of year, I'm on skis every day in some capacity, but it's like I always want more. And
Yeah.
Today's a beautiful day. I've managed to be on skis for about 30 seconds when I took a run down the rope tow when we just got that set up this morning. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting out after this and getting some more laps in.
Yeah, good. Well, you'll get some more sunshine after this episode.
Yes, definitely.
So talk about how you got into outdoor recreation. I know you have kind of like a long-standing relationship with like snow sports, but kind of curious, like how'd you end up in this role?
Yeah, definitely. And it's kind of a funny story, but yeah, I grew up skiing in Vermont. I was really fortunate to have a pretty amazing National Historic Park in my backyard. And that park had, I think probably about 10 miles of, multi-use trails, primarily, hiking and, cross-country ski trails. And it was just a really awesome place to grow up. And, in high school, I was a competitive skier. I was recruited to ski at Colby College, just a mile up the road from here. And when I first arrived in Waterville in 2012, fall of 2011, I think was the first time I ever came here. I remember meeting the team, and we went out for a run from campus, and we ran through a swamp just a mile from campus, and I was like, what is this place? It was so bizarre. It's probably right where we're sitting right now. And I'm like, why are we running through this swamp? And I remember the team at the time was talking about, they're going to make these into ski trails and it's going to be this big deal. And, I didn't think anything of it at the time. But then after, going to Colby and from 2012 through 2016, watching the place grow and develop into this, a version of what it is today, it really made these huge strides and was really interesting to see how, just the community came out, and how Waterville Parks and Rec and Friends of Quarry Road, as well as, other community partners, kind of came together to make something happen. And again, what used to be a swamp out here. So after college, I continued to ski coach, and, was able to travel around the country working with collegiate and as well as high school club teams. And I was actually up in Fairbanks, Alaska, coaching at a pretty, high level club program up there, when I actually bumped into someone with from Waterville, who's saying, oh, Quarry Road's hiring for this director position, and if you ever want to move back to Waterville, there's your opportunity. And it's funny, like, I was in a lot of ways kind of in my dream scenario there. I was I was in northern Alaska, central Alaska, and skiing was amazing for 7 months out of the year, it felt like. And why move back to Waterville? But this place is super unique in the sense that it has snowmaking, which I'm sure we'll talk more about in depth here. But it's also has this really great community behind it. So many people with so many interests, not just skiing, but putting in time and effort to make this place really cool.
You're one of few employees here, right? Like, I know that the Parks and Rec department in Waterville has a handful, but a lot of this is actually maintained by volunteers and run by volunteers. Is that right?
Yeah, sort of. So I was actually hired to be the program director out here. And so when I showed up and realized I was the only full-time employee, I'm like, I guess I'm kind of just the director too.
Yeah.
So you're right. Like, my job is super dynamic. It's, it's managing the programs out here, events, getting community partners to, utilize this space, but also, stewarding the trails, managing the trail network, and developing it. We have a great team at Waterville Parks and Rec, and they're maintaining and working on a lot of different properties all throughout the city. But in the wintertime, when ball fields are covered in snow and not in use, like, that crew comes out here and they do an amazing job, maintaining our ski trails and working on various aspects of our winter operation. But yeah, you're right. Beyond that, it's like entirely volunteer. Our welcome center yurt, which is just behind us right here, which serves as kind of like our home base for the ski area, as well as a gear library, and kind of the heart and soul of Quarry Road. Primarily worked and staffed by volunteers. All of our ski coaches are all volunteer. We have almost 200 participants of all ages in all of our different youth ski programs, as well as adult learn to ski classes that we run through Waterville Parks and Rec for both Nordic, and then we have a growing community at the rope tow there for downhill skiing and snowboarding.
That's really cool. That's really
Yeah.
cool. I know you brought this up, and it was one of the things when Sam and I were talking, sort of like pre-episode, of like, okay, what directions do we want to take this thing and all that kind of stuff. It was so interesting to me to start to understand some of the behind the scenes details of, like, okay, so you have the Parks and Rec side of the operation that comes in and does all that support like you're talking about, but then you have the Friends of Quarry Road component. So could you help us just kind of like peel that back for the listener a little bit, of like talking about working with both of those entities, kind of going towards a common goal? Because I think that's pretty unique. Like, oftentimes, we tend to only see that nonprofit type organization who's maybe coming in and doing a lot of trail work in a rural community, but there's not always that sort of like municipal, like, town type scenario too. So curious, like, how that kind of all shakes out for you.
Yeah, that is a great question. And I do think it is one of our secrets to success out here, is that we have a super unique model. And I truthfully can't think of many other places that are doing quite what we do in the way that we do it. So again, I work for Waterville Parks and Rec. I report to the director of Parks and Rec, and as well as Public Works there. And we're fully integrated into the city management and administration there. But at the same time, we have grown and developed, and thanks to this nonprofit that really was the one that spearheaded getting this place going in the first when it first got going in the late 2000s. That's Friends of Quarry Road. So we're about 15 years into, or a little over 15 years into the Quarry Road story here, and it continues to get, evolve more and more. But so to understand that relationship in terms of our maintenance, our operations, even our programs is fully municipal all through Waterville Parks and Rec. But we have Friends of Quarry Road, who's, it's almost like this regional group, all different stakeholders and users of the trails, people who are passionate about different things. And that group's always constantly evolving. But as people come in and they have ideas and they have things they're passionate about, they get to be part of that story and put their time and energy into helping develop this place. And that's really where that group has shined, is in terms of grant writing, as well as fundraising, and allowing us to kind of leverage some other opportunities, both local, federal, state type initiatives that have really made this place into the really great space it is today. Yeah.
Do you have any examples? Like, I know you guys have done like a pretty massive expansion with this like epic parking lot. I hadn't really remembered this. I had been here one time before I had taken the job at Colby, but I didn't remember it like this, because obviously this is all new. So, like, the Friends of Quarry Road, did they kind of create this and they were the dreamers behind it, or was this more of a City of Waterville development?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, Friends has been, I would say, the architects behind a lot of it, but like, the city's the one, again, operating it, making it happen. So it's a very unique partnership. They're not the ones out here, grooming the trails,
Right.
or building things or making the yurt run. Like, we're well past that stage of the nonprofit. And early on, Friends was that group of citizens were the ones making it happen.
Yep.
And so to kind of understand, I think, where we are now, you have to look at the early days of Quarry Road, which the way the city actually acquired this property is super interesting. There was actually another parcel of land in the city of Waterville that was tagged through Land and Water Conservation Fund to be used for outdoor recreation. And I think there was some issue with it wasn't being used how it was originally intended. And so the city needed to find a new place to convert through LWCF to be a new, recreation focused property. And this land at the time was owned by Colby College, was sitting more or less abandoned. We're on the site of what used to be the Colby College ski area that last operated in 1975. And so for almost 50 years, this place sat empty. And it was through that, initial group of citizens getting together and saying, hey, the city has the opportunity here to do something really special with this property. It is, potentially going to be Waterville's largest green space, and a place where we can really revive this history of winter recreation and make some really cool things happen. And that they definitely had very, very big dreams from the start. And again, from my perspective, watching it at the early days, it was kind of like, what is going on? This is nuts. But again, that relationship between Friends and the city has completely evolved. And, now this area supports a full-time city employee, which that's me.
Right.
And then we have, seasonals who help support the operation. We've got, a great team of people who help with grooming and snowmaking and maintenance and all of these other aspects of the park. And then Friends is there for fundraising and development, but they also are kind of that funnel where they bring in all these different stakeholders and users, community members who want to help out, and kind of are able to step in and find a way to help pitch in, whether it's maybe they're volunteering in some capacity through the Welcome Center yurt, or they're helping out with snowmaking or ski coaching, or maybe they're helping with marketing and fundraising, whatever it is. So that group has really been the one to kind of, I would say, organize the community behind it. And we're not a single use, even though we have the winter strong, we're strong in the winter. We're there are mountain bikers, there are trail runners, there are people just like walking their dog and just being out here and sitting out in the sun. So yeah, that group has really brought everyone together, created this big space where we can all kind of share resources and create something really special. So
Cool.
It is really special here. I mean, I've found it to be like one of my favorite parts of the new job at Colby is being able to come here. Like, I've been able to come here with students. We've done some programs with you all using, like, you have the Welcome Center and the yurt. There are a bunch of free snowshoes for community members to use. So I've actually done some like snowshoe and sauna sessions that have been so much fun. And all the students who come had no idea that this even existed 5 minutes away from campus, or that there were free snowshoes that they could use, or that there was an awesome sauna here, which we haven't even mentioned. And this, the sauna is like more of a pop-up for you guys and something you're testing out. But I mean, as a user, I think it's the coolest thing ever. And then, yeah, I mean, it's a really alive Nordic center. Like, you don't have a lot of these in the state of Maine. And it's really special. Like, I'm lucky to have, Tick come pretty close to where I live, and I get to experience that. But like, I just love that you can, stand right here, sit right here, and you're watching everybody go by. And there's a huge amount of people that utilize this space in all different ages too.
Well,
it's pretty special.
And
Yeah.
I think the part that's the most interesting to me is the fact that, like, oftentimes when you would think about like this type of setup and like the amount of like acreage that you guys have in terms of trail network and all of the access pieces, you don't usually associate that with the city. Now, like, granted, I understand Waterville is not like Boston, right? Like, the two different definitions of cities, but at the same time, you would almost always think about this in like extremely sort of rural corners of the state, where you're like, well, yeah, of course, there's tons of land available in all these spaces. But the fact that you're able to have something like this like in such close proximity to, a major population center for the state of Maine, like, only I have to envision, like, only allows you to impact even more people, because you're not having to convince them, like, okay, let's drive an hour to go to this like beautiful Nordic trail center. It's like, hey, just come 5 minutes away from the downtown area, and all of a sudden you're here, right? And that's really, really cool.
Well, you have quite a few programs that kind of support that effort, right? So, like, you're getting the local school districts to come and learn how to ski, and by offering, Nordic ski rentals and free snowshoes, it's like encouraging kind of the use of the space, and also just like keeping the tickets to an affordable rate. Like, I know that's something we've talked about, is like, we're trying to reduce the barriers to having access to outdoor recreation, because we are in rural Maine, and skiing is an expensive activity. And I think that's like one of the missions I've seen from friends of Quarry Road, or all the work you guys are doing, is trying to keep this accessible to your local community. Can you talk a little bit more about like the things that you're offering here for local community?
yeah, definitely. There's a lot of great points you brought up there. I would say in terms of local community offerings, again, just trying to be like this accessible backyard space, like you said, like 2 miles from downtown. And it's rare, I would say, to have such a large green space. If you drive just down the road, you see how densely populated it is.
Yeah.
For there not to be any housing out here, or solar farm, or whatever development would happen out here, had there not been a land and water conservation tag on it. But where I look to kind of multiply the effort is like creating the space and creating the resource, and then allowing other groups to come in. So right, like, there might be someone who works with a specific segment of the population who accessibility is a huge issue for. Whether it's someone who's certain youth groups, right, who are, the outdoors isn't always available to them, or maybe it's a senior group, or maybe it's someone who are mobility limited, and for them to come out here and have the trail system that we have, right here, and we can create ways where we have this really high quality resource that's not necessarily, driving an hour north or, paying some absurd price to get there is really special. And like when we talk about access, of course there's the transportation component, there's the gear component, there's even just like having the clothing to sit outdoors. Like there are all these things that, as a trail manager, like I can't solve all those issues, but there are things we can do to reduce the barriers to entry. And locally, one of the ways we do that, again, I think is super unique, is we use a higher quality recreation amenity, which for us is cross-country skiing. Like we are a destination place for cross-country skiing. We host some of the largest cross-country ski events in New England for both competitive as well as non-competitive events. Like we hosted the Youth Ski Festival last year. We can bring in these outside groups, and that brings, obviously revenue to us and money into the community, which we can then use for our overhead costs and ultimately subsidize local recreation for Waterville residents, which I think is really great and unique, and like something that probably other communities could look at in terms of like when they're trying to develop a space. If you want to have a really high quality space, you have to think about your funding mechanism, but because there is a cost to maintaining all of this, but you can then use that to then reduce barriers locally. You know what I mean?
That reminds me of our episode with Camp Tracy.
Yep.
And they had developed this like kind of center, like an event center, so that
lodge.
the lodge,
Yeah.
with the Alphon Youth Community Center, and they had essentially put a bunch of money in that so that they could have like weddings and big events, so then they could keep the costs low for local community. And that's right down in Oakland, so not too far from here, but that makes so much sense. It's like you're able to then keep the cost low for the people who will be using it most.
Right. Yeah. Well, and being able to hit those like segments of the population that are whether it's like price sensitivity or whether it's access to gear or like whatever those things are. I mean, we talk about, granted, different realm when it comes to like Sugarloaf, but the amount of programs that we do that are heavily discounted towards all of the local communities up there. I have conversations with my coaches all the time about it. It's like, those things happen because we have other products across our portfolio that allow us to make the money where we need to make the money, so that way we can bring those folks in. I mean, like for our ski skate programs that we run for the afternoons, Monday through Friday, every school district that's kind of surrounds Sugarloaf each has a day where the school brings a whole busload and multiple busloads of kids up there, and they get rentals, their ticket, a lesson, and a cookie. Why the cookie got out?
Always gotta add the cookie
for $5 a kid.
That's great.
Right, so it's like you have to find what are those funding mechanisms that allow you to do that. And I'm curious. So like with the gear library, because I know like every gear library around the state kind of has its own little thing that it's trying to serve in the best way possible. So what are the sort of parameters around the gear library here at Quarry Road?
Yeah, so our gear library is developing and evolving. Right now, it's primarily been exclusively been a winter gear library, and we do kind of build in. We want to make sure if you have never been here and accessibility is an issue, like we kind of meet you right there with the most basic level of need, which we do provide free snowshoes in there. So if you just want to go out and experience the space, right there, like you just drive down the road. The road's a little rough right now, but drive down the road, and like the snowshoes are out here and the snow's out here. And I mean, we've been super fortunate. It's been a great winter, but we also do make snow here, which is great. But our cross country skis, we do I think we have a minimal rental fee on those, and I think that will be changing. I mean, I've looked at a lot of other gear libraries, and and seeing what people are doing. Skowhegan Base Camp is right up the road, so I've looked at what they are doing, and they've got something built in there for, I think it's like Somerset County residents.
Yep.
So yeah, that's something that certainly will continue to look at and evolve, because like accessibility is like becoming more front and center into the conversation. We did receive a grant last summer to continue to build out that gear library for summer recreation. So we actually have now canoes and kayaks and mountain bikes, which will be deployed in their first full summer of use this summer. So I have a lot of stuff to figure out very quickly. And part of it is like, we have the gear, now we need the space, and the yurt is a pretty tiny space, and it's hard to wheel mountain bikes in and out of. So we were able to apply for and get a Maine Trails Program grant through the Bureau of Parks and Land, which is actually going to help create a new space for that.
That's awesome.
Partially for that gear library.
That's cool.
And we're going to just use it as a flexible space, for when we have events, when we have programs. In the wintertime, it can be like a space for someone to get inside, get warm, wax their skis. But it's something that we kind of lack a little bit of, and the yurt's done a great job for the last 15 years, but it's a little tight in there right now, especially when you're talking about mountain bikes. And we're not putting canoes and kayaks in there. Those are down at the waterfront, but
those take up slightly more space than Nordic skis.
That's so
definitely.
exciting. Where is it gonna go?
Pretty much right where we're sitting, actually.
Okay.
Like,
I'm glad we filmed this podcast.
Over in that direction, but it'll be right off the pavement there. And again, working on like that user experience, like getting right from your car, shuffling them through to get the gear, and then right out onto the snow or the trails or whatever they need. The yurt's just a little offset right now, and just that much of a walk keeps people out of it. It's kind of funny. So
that'll be amazing. I'm glad that, I feel like the leaning into your summer assets too. Like, I've heard this is such an amazing place to go mountain biking, but talk about access, like having the equipment at an affordable rate to be able to try something like that. And it seems like you can meet a whole slew of ability. Like, I know that is some elevation gain over there. And I can imagine on a mountain bike. I have done it on skis. But like, I've also really enjoyed kind of down here where it's more flat and it's along the water, and like all the snowshoeing I've done is relatively flat as well. So I can imagine in the summertime mountain biking here, you can kind of meet a bunch of different abilities.
Yeah, and that's like, in terms of the shifting summer landscape here, is the big user group that's coming out more and more. I don't like have numbers in terms of how that sport is doing in Maine, but like just anecdotally, it's like more and more bikers every day out here in the summertime. And we're trying to put a lot more resources into like professionally developing our trails. And again, part of that Maine Trails Program grant that we received is going to be for adding about 1.5 miles of new single track out here.
Nice.
Specifically designed at, like, a portion of it will be specifically designed for like a flow, beginner level style trail that we kind of are lacking. We do have one trail that's the one you're probably talking about that was built a couple of years ago. It's called Flo Alonsky.
Yes.
Which is a great name. Great trail name.
Flo Alonsky.
I can't remember who came up with that, but anyway, that trail has been kind of a game changer, because I think the trail network before that was like pretty,
rugged.
It was kind of rugged, but it was user generated, and there's some really great segments, but it's like, in terms of the actual flow, like if you've never ridden here before and you just show up, like, there's definitely some pretty negative comments about the signage. So the signage came in partially in response to those comments. But the other thing that just bugs me is like, if you show up to a new trail system, wherever you're going, you want, maybe you're a half hour, maybe you're an hour, 2-hour rider type person, like whatever that is, you want a loop, you want like something to get you out, and, obvious flow to the trails. And that's something our bike trails are kind of lacking, just partially because we don't have enough, and the layout's just not quite where it needs to go. So one of these trails is in like a very critical spot, which is actually on the east side of the access road, which is actually mostly privately owned. So for the first time we ever at Quarry Road, we worked with private landowners to work out a land use agreement for the development and maintenance of those trails. So yeah, really excited to see that project happen, and like it should go out to bid here very shortly, and try to get some professional help in there.
So that'll be this summer. Is that
this summer?
Happening?
Yeah,
Cool.
always lots of projects. Not as big as last year. I mean, last year we made the parking lot here, and that was through a big grant through Northern Borders Regional Commission, and that has been awesome. Like parking lot is not something you'd ever think you'd be excited about, but geez, I can't imagine doing some of the things we do without it. You know, like we just hosted yesterday Special Olympics Maine state meet, and we had a couple hundred people out here, and just in terms of like parking, but also the space to have an event tent, and just the flow of it. It makes it so like an event organizer can kind of just step in and do what they need to do, and not have to worry about that, which is like, you know, huge for us to welcome people to the community like that. So
absolutely.
Well, and I remember because like the event that you and I ended up at, I think you were like right in the beginning of a lot of the parking lot construction happening, and just the raw capacity that it allows you to then serve. Because I know like you said earlier, like you're only going larger and larger in terms of the events that you're pulling people in for, right? And so with that, like people have to be able to put their car somewhere within, you know, a mile radius of where the event is happening. So you know, it's no one thinks about parking, but it's such a crucial part of infrastructure when you want to continue to see these things to grow. Like, cool, if we want to keep everything at the same size, yeah, great. Don't, you know, just make sure the parking lot's somewhat flat. That's awesome. But if you want to continue to see things incrementally grow, or I mean, I know you talked about like some aspirations of having like an Olympic qualifier for Nordic skiing here. So like if that's ever a goal somewhere down the line, you need that capacity. So
yeah, and it's parking, it's restrooms, it's signage, it's all these things that, like, when you think of outdoor recreation and trails, you probably aren't front and center, but like are super important things to invest in and be thinking about. And yeah, for us, like, you know, people getting out and that you know, that daily recreation experience is like, you know, that is so great for the local community, and is, you know, that's 90% of our trail users right there. But like you said, that 10%, like hosting big events that are, you know, state or regionally significant, you know, you have to have those things and be thinking about them. And yeah, I think for us right now, like having the snowmaking we have, having the parking lot, you know, that is kind of an aspirational thing, is like these bigger ski races, and it's not for everyone, but it's ultimately what's like brings people to town, you know, for not only for like a day, but for like days at a time, you know, heads in beds, you know, locally, and otherwise what can be a quiet time of year is that's economic development. And you know, so
and the snowmaking allows it to happen earlier in the season and have the snow stick around a little later in the season. Is that like expanded your ability to stay open?
Yeah, definitely. And the snowmaking is really the key to our success, along with, you know, that unique structure that we have there with Parks and Rec and friends at Quarry Road. Like when this place was getting off the ground, snowmaking was early on, you know, part of the conversation, and there were people that were skeptical, including, you know, myself from a distance. I'm like, snowmaking, do we really need that? But it's proven to be, it's just transformational, and it's because it's guaranteed access to the sport, you know, in what can be, you know, challenging conditions. And like, you know, obviously the weather's is more unpredictable. Sometimes we get the temperatures but not the precipitation. Sometimes we get the precipitation and it's immediately gone from a rain event or whatever it is. But this kind of allows us to weather those ups and downs and have something that's consistent and steady. And and when it's in those lean winters, like people are going to seek it out. And again, that goes back into like helping support the resource for the local community. Is like, we would not be able to afford this if it weren't for people from coming from further away and paying like a slight premium. I think our day tickets and season passes are very reasonable for what we offer, especially knowing what other Nordic areas are charging in like Vermont, and like we're not a resort destination, right? But so yeah, snowmaking's been huge, and like the key to that is our access to the Messalonskee Stream. It is a perfect snowmaking water body, and I think you think about why the ski area popped up here in the the 50s and 60s and 70s is because they had access to water. I mean, they had snowmaking back then, they had lights for night skiing back then. So we're not like, this has been an amazing community space before, and we're kind of just revitalizing it and reviving it there. So
no need to reinvent the wheel.
No, but we're definitely doing some things that the first two iterations of the ski area didn't do. But one of them is actually the rope tow. The 1930s, Dunham's Farm at the top of the hill.
Oh, wow.
They had run off a little Model T Ford engine there, and
awesome.
We still have rope tow here. So
the rope tow's been giving you a lot of headaches this year.
Well, we're 5 years into this, and it's about, I want to say, what is it, like 200, just shy of 270 vertical. Good steep little pitch. Historically, I think there were about 3 or 4 trails. They had a lodge at the top. Colby Outing Club had a lodge at the top. And there are a lot of people of a certain age in Waterville who fondly remember growing up skiing here, $3 day tickets and getting dropped off with their PB&J after school, and just spending the whole night or whole day here. And we're trying to get that going again. And it's a whole nother thing, because it took us a long time to figure out snowmaking here. Like the infrastructure went in early, but in terms of actually getting the system up and running and dialed, like that has been a tremendous effort by our volunteers. And like, we've had volunteer leaders there, particularly Dave McClay, who's been a volunteer for the last, I don't even know how many years, but he's done an amazing job kind of professionalizing that side of our operation, as well as like Waterville Parks and Rec, people stepping up and learning something that's not it's like a new skill, right? And so we've learned a lot, and we've come a long way, and we've figured out what works here. And we're doing the same for Alpine. Like, there's not exactly a playbook for starting a new ski area, and you learn a lot really quickly. And like you alluded to earlier, it's like, we don't have that. We're not a ski mountain with like real estate and food and beverage and all these other things,
lodge.
And investors. Like, we're figuring it out, and we're being scrappy, and like, sometimes there are those little headaches and learning moments. And we've had some days where it's been incredible up there this year, and some days where it's like, we're learning. Sometimes things break. So I think that's just, all the ski area mountains in Maine are familiar with that. But, we have one lift, so it's kind of, I know there's some users who are vocal when things get shut down, but also people have been super appreciative when we've been up and running. And that is absolutely kind of like winter future. What the future of Quarry Road is like, that user base is getting really energized and excited. And what makes Quarry Road this great space is like, anyone who comes out and wants to be a part of the story can jump in and help shape what we are. And so that's kind of where things are heading a little bit, is continuing to grow and develop the hill, and hopefully not have so many mechanical issues, but we'll figure that out. So
on the up and up. Well, it sounds like there's a space for new people to come in and volunteer if they want to, or just come and use the space as it's intended, and highly encourage it, because it's so fun out here. Like, the skiing is amazing.
Skiing is really, really good.
It's so good.
So I don't know when this episode's coming out, but hopefully, like, we still,
before it's gone.
Or
the snow's gone.
But in terms of volunteers, like, we rely on hundreds of volunteers a year, whether it's event volunteers, people working in the Welcome Center yurt, coaching ski programs, and Friends of Quarry Road is fully volunteer organization. So many different ways to get involved and, you know, utilize the skill sets you have. Even if it's just like coming out and doing some trail work too. Like that's always an option. So I get to work with a really diverse and great group of people, and who you know, really love this place and want to just continue to see it grow and develop, and you know, be a wonderful resource for our community. So yeah, every year is different, every day is different out here. So yeah,
it's a fun job you have.
It's fun. Yeah, I get to do a lot of interesting things for sure.
You do.
A lot of problem solving.
Yeah,
so.
You're professional at that. That's for sure.
Part of being a director, baby.
Yeah.
Oh, well, so awesome. So we have kind of like a fun way we wrap up each episode, and it's kind of like rapid fire questions for you. So hopefully you can handle it. Normally it's voices from the summit, voices from the yurt.
Yeah. One of those. All right. So we got to know, you mentioned earlier you try to spend as much time as you can on skis here, right? But when someone finishes skiing here, what's like the go-to, like, best post-ski snack in Waterville? Where are you going after this?
Oh, it's a good question. I'd say it depends on the time of day. If it's before noon, probably going to Sunrise Bagel, getting a coffee and a bagel. They have a bagel named after us, I think. I'm not fully sure, but I think that might be a thing. And then if it's like late afternoon, evening, because we do have lights for night skiing, I will probably be going to Kushnock because they have good tacos and stuff. And the food scene has totally changed in Waterville.
Yeah.
And like all Waterville downtown has changed. And it's, you know, Quarry Road's changed. It's cool to see that side of things. But yeah, food's really good in town.
It is. So. I have to say, being like, we live in technically Fairfield, but I'm like basically just on the outskirts of Waterville, and being able to just go downtown and just have like what feels like unlimited access to incredible restaurants is
you can't go wrong.
Super close.
I mean, there's so many other places, but those were my go-tos.
Yeah, I love
personally.
I love Kushnock, and the Collie Bang Bang is my favorite. What is the hardest part about maintaining this trail system for year round?
It's a good question. We just have so much going on. You know, I think we're super fortunate to have so many people involved in this area and in this place, but it is like, you know, there's just so much going on. It's like sometimes my head spins with all the things I have to think about. Like, it's not, there's the physical side of it, which in some ways is the most straightforward, because it's like, okay, make sure the trails are in good shape in the summertime, maintain them how we would, you know, for ski area in the wintertime. But then there's all those little aspects you never consider, like signage and the whole digital infrastructure behind it, marketing it, running it like a business, but also like making those community partnerships. So yeah, it's just how dynamic it is. And it's I can be doing, like, my head can be spinning some days just going back and forth between some random things, but yeah, so
you do it well.
Yeah, and hey, today you got 30 seconds on skis, so that, I mean,
yeah, I'm hoping to get a little bit more than
the
that.
whole time.
No, that was, well, I mean, we did, so we installed a new motor in the rope tow yesterday, so that was like the big test, is to make sure it got me up. And I'm gonna go back out there after this and make sure everything's working, and yeah, the people are happy and using the trails. Obviously, the Nordic's up and running right now, and so yeah, it's
cool. Describe the future of Maine's outdoor recreation economy in one word.
The future.
The future
of it. It's definitely people, because, you know, Maine has some really beautiful places and always will, but it's, you know, it takes people to sustain and keep these places beautiful and develop them appropriately and you know, create that level of of access, and it looks like something different everywhere you go, right? And Quarry Road is a unique fit for Waterville in this community, and there are I'm sure other recreation assets that have great, amazing teams of people behind them that are doing all sorts of crazy things to make them work, to make it possible. So
Love it.
Yeah.
What's harder, managing snow or managing people?
Managing people, yeah, great one. Definitely people, but again, work with a great group of people here, volunteers, Parks and Rec staff, Public Works, and just all the community partners that come in. And I think the challenge has been, this place can be so many different things to so many different people. It's, you asked earlier about like who's driving this, and it's from so many voices and so many opinions that you almost like, it's almost like democracy in a way, because you get like a majority of people who want to see something, and you kind of move in that direction instead of like one person and their idea, which the ideas can get pretty crazy sometimes.
Yeah,
but ultimately everyone's just really passionate about seeing this place grow. And yeah, managing people, there's a lot of people involved, so that's mostly it. So
cool. So I know we've talked about like everything that's happened in sort of this like 15 plus year most recent history version of Quarry Road, but for someone who, there's so many families and kids that are coming here every single day, week, year. What do you hope the thing is that like a kid visiting Quarry Road now looks back on as an adult and goes, yeah, that was it?
Ooh, good. I think locally, I want people who grow up here to have pride in this place, and that's kind of I think a big word for, in the schools right now is pride in Waterville, and pride in the place you're growing up, and this, I think people should absolutely like be excited about this place and care about it and have pride that we're doing some pretty unique and pretty awesome things, like that small but mighty story of like, or you're just figuring it out, making it happen. And then for people who aren't from here, like just understanding how unique this place is and different. And we're definitely doing something that I don't think a lot of other places are doing. Like there are other cross-country ski areas, and there are other municipally run or small nonprofits that run ski areas or build trail systems, but like this is just a different way of doing it for sure. And some days it is a little bit of a headache, but for the most part it works out great. And it can be that place that people want to come before work, after school, on the weekend, drive an hour or more to get up here and try a sport that can be kind of a consistent recreation asset for those folks who otherwise wouldn't have exposure to cross-country skiing. So yeah, I would say those are the two big ones: pride in this place, and then just realizing how unique it is. So
that's cool. Well, that's like a perfect way to close out this episode. But for any of you who want to learn more about Quarry Road and all of the amazing things that they have going on, rest assured, all of the links are going to be in the show notes. So we'll make sure that all the social media handles are in there, the website, all that stuff. And if you haven't, like, get over here. Like I'm already imagining my wife and I coming over here, whether it's for a cross-country ski or like just this summer, like being able to take a walk with the dogs and all that kind of stuff. So definitely come check this place out. And is there anything else you feel like we haven't hit on?
Oh, no, other than like you know, if people are interested in, you know, getting outdoors, like, you never know what's in your own backyard. And like, we always get people in Waterville who live right down the road,
Yep.
who've never been here and
Yep.
have no idea this place is here. Like, we don't have a whole, you know, marketing firm behind us. So like, so yeah, I would say just, you know, whether it's getting out to Quarry Road or whatever park or, you know, facility or trail systems in your neck of the woods, check it out, because there's a lot of really cool stuff out there. And sometimes Maine can feel like very dispersed in terms of where these things are, but there's really cool things to be discovered right in your own backyard. So
Completely agree.
Booyah. Well, until next time, we'll see you outside.
See you outside.